Council meeting, February 25th, 2021 at 4:05. Can I have the roll call, please? Let it show 8 members are here and Dr. Guy's absent. Go to number 2.
There is no executive session. There are no proclamations. Number 4, status report by the parish president.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll go over some of the COVID numbers now. Confirmed positive cases in Plaquemine Parish. We're at 1682. We're up 30 since 217. Our positive rate now is 5.9. It's up 1.8 from 217. We get a report every week. The death total now is 24, and that was 1 since 2017. The vaccine update this week, the following locations will receive vaccines for the general public: Delta Drugs, Plaquemine's Primary Care, and Plaquemine's Medical Center. Some of these vaccines delivered are still delayed from the winter weather last week. They're hoping to receive last week's orders by today. Plaquemine's Health Department is currently administering a second dose of vaccines to first responders this week. This was scheduled to take place last week, but due to the weather, the vaccine wasn't sent until today. As you're aware, Governor Edwards and LDH changed the vaccination tiers last week. The below are now eligible to receive vaccines. Teachers and support staff working kindergarten through 12 schools, daycares, and non-emergency medical transportation staff, pregnant women, and people from 55 to 64 years of age with one or more health condition defined by the CDC will be eligible to receive a COVID vaccine. The Plaquemines Parish School Board is working with Plaquemines Medical Center and Plaquemines Primary Care to administer the vaccine to the school personnel over the next couple days. The Louisiana Sheriff's Association is working with the sheriffs to obtaining vaccines for inmates who fall under the current requirements. Hurricane Zeta recovery. The deadline to register for individual assistance for Hurricane Zeta is March 15, 2021. You can reach FEMA at 800-621-FEMA. The number of applicants submitted to FEMA for disaster assistance, total of Plaquemines residents now is up to 805 residents. And they're broken down in geographical areas. Bellchase is 248, Bootville is 14, Braithwaite is 150, Buras Empire is 107, Point LaHash is 54, and Port Sulphur is 232. The DSNAP from Hurricane Zeta. Here are the DSNAP results from Plaquemines Parish. 804 households applied, 636 households were approved, 1,455 members approved in households. So that was a total of $261,630 issued by DSNAP just for Plaquemines. Recreation, our great season's opener was 2 weeks ago. I'd like to thank the recreation staff and coaches and parents for a successful season opener. Looking forward to a great season. Make sure everyone stays healthy. Plaquemines Parish Recreation Soccer registration begins February 1st through the 26th. Ages 5 to 14. If you're looking to participate, you can register online or any of our parish recreational offices. This past weekend, teams from across the Southwest region gathered in the Plaquemines Parish for the 30th Annual Creole Classic, sponsored by West Bank Gymnastics. Very proud of the Recreation Department, their staff, who hosted the gymnastics tournament. And today, guys, I handed you a report of all the pumping stations parish-wide. I ask that you review it, and we will have the superintendent of the pumping station at the next meeting to go over any questions and answer any questions that you have. With that, Mr. Chairman, that includes my report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Since Director Epley's not here, so maybe you can answer the question I have. He, when we have tournaments, he has to send something to the state. So is this something new that's taking place for the parish?
When we have an event in our facility, they must issue a COVID plan. The COVID plan is signed off by our health department, and it's signed off by the state fire marshal. So both of those were signed off by those two entities that allowed us to have this event with the guidelines that were put forth in the plan.
And this event, is it just for inside or it's parish-wide for outside events also?
As long as they have a COVID plan that we pass through our health department and through the state fire marshal and get the blessing, we would welcome anybody who has an event would like to come to our pavilion.
So this is the new norm now with the state?
I'm sorry?
Is this the new norm now with the state?
It's the norm now that we have to go by the guidelines and the restrictions that they want us to adhere by, and we followed them, and it went very successful.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Yes, Mr. President, I really appreciate the update on the pump stations. I hope that when we meet next week, that you come with a price tag about what it will cost us, so we need to know what direction we really need to move in.
We will, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Ms. Barbara.
Update by charter directors. I'm sorry, I have another question on the directors.
Ms. Newberry.
This is from Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor, can you put on record, you made a statement about the mosquito control. Can you let the public know on when y'all going to start spraying again?
The mosquito control trucks are set to go out March 1st.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Shoot. I don't know what else I wanted to say. Pass.
Thank you. Mr. LaFrance.
Yes, Ms. Turner. I'm sorry. Ms. Taylor. I know we're getting ready for the celebration, ribbon cutting ceremony for the Post Sulphur Library. I spoke to the contractors earlier, but it wasn't in the contract. There's 3 trees that's in front of that library. That middle tree is dead. So before we would open this up to the public, is it possible we can get that tree cut down, that middle tree?
Councilmember LaFrance, before we have that ceremony, that place will be in pristine shape.
Whenever
will be clean.
whenever you're down there by the library, you can take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Mr. LaFrance, if I could inject, I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think that tree is going to be removed. I think that was part of, if I've talked to the engineers and the contractors, that tree was rotten. They have some issues, and I think it's going to be removed.
Yeah, because I had spoke to Mr. Ames about it.
Mm-hmm.
He had
But
told-
I think that, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'll try to give you an answer, exact answer tomorrow.
Okay, good. Mr. Roussel, presently we have one of our garbage truck in the shop. Our garbage truck from the southern end has been in the shop for close to a year, if not over a year. So would you be able to give me a report on how much it costs, or why is it taking so long for that truck to be in the shop?
Yes, it got there right around the COVID time, right before it, and then COVID come and shut down all the warehouses and body to rebuild the engines and heads and stuff. But I spoke to the Nowhere a couple weeks ago, and he said they were putting it back together, and they should be getting it pretty soon. But I'll check with him again in the morning and let you know.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wow. Also, can you let us, what is the status on getting the police to mark these lights that's out in our community? Because I had spoke to,
I'm going ride Monday and do flagging tape, so.
Should Entergy do an audit on the lights if we're paying for them? Is it up to us to ride around with flagging tape at night? I mean, I've done it half a dozen times myself already.
I talked to her a week or two ago, and she has to do all the Tidewater Road and numerous ones out in District 9, and she asked me if I could save them some time and put flagging tape on the ones that's out.
Yeah, but some of these poles, in a situation, I ain't going through no grass at nighttime. That ain't happening.
I have one more question. This is from
Ms.
Mr. Russo.
Newberry.
Well, I'm still
Oh, go
still
ahead.
waiting.
I'm sorry.
I'm still waiting.
Sorry.
Because when I talked to the safety man, he told me that you instructed him that you was gonna meet.
We'll get with the sheriff department and see about we did it before. We'll ask them again
Uh-huh.
about flagging the poles and the guys that work at night, because they can see which ones are on and off. And the storm probably knocked a bunch of lights out, yes. So we'll check with them again.
I mean, because it is a safety issue for my community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Thank you. I did that task, going right up on the East Bank and tagged the poles for lights. It took them over 3 months to start after they were tagged. So, I mean, I went at night, rode the whole East Bank to start the majority of those lights, and that's how long it took for them to do that. But anyway, the other question I have now is with Mr. Russell is that possibly you can ask the, give them some kind of direction of the people on the trash pickup crew on the southern end to work on the East Bank. Since Bell Chase area has so little fuel and they got so much area to cover, that those guys can come over to the East Bank and work that whenever you have overtime to pick up the trash on the East Bank. I would appreciate that you ask them that, sir.
We'll ask.
Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
I just want to ask Mr. Russo, we still operate on one trash truck on the northern end?
Right now, we have one cherry picker operator. Yes, ma'am. We've lost about 8 drivers since the COVID began. And we've been trying to hire them on, but we haven't had no luck yet.
So that's why things are moving a little slower than usual?
Ma'am?
Is that why things are moving a little slower than usual?
Yes, a lot slower than usual, and plus we still picking up storm debris. People are still putting out large trees and large sections of material, and we're still doing that, and we are keeping the ticket books. We still writing tickets on it to be able to get the refund back from FEMA. So we are working at it, but we just got minimum crews.
Thank you, I yield.
Mr. Blink?
Yield.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback on what Ms. Newberry just said. I just want to put it out there. I know we had private discussions about it, about some of the ideas. 'Cause I have a serious issue in my district, and I got here a little early today, so I drove kind of up and down Highway 15 and noticed the issues they have between Phoenix and the courthouse. And I mean, it's pretty bad when it comes to trash, right? You know, I've talked to the sheriff about citing people who dump illegally, because it is an ordinance that you can't dump on a parish right away, on a parish property unless it's labeled for that particular purpose. And you know the neighborhood I'm talking about in Fort St. Leon that I have my major issues. My recommendation would be, and I know manpower is limited, is that if we can just dedicate a certain amount of time per month for each area. I'm not going to say district, but I'll say area. For instance, if everybody knows that on the East Bank, that the cherry picker and operator and truck picks up the first week of the month, and if everybody knows that on the second week of the month, they pick up from Russell Drive North, and then on the third week, they pick up from Russell Drive to, St. Jude or whatever, and then St. Jude South on the fifth week or whatever it is, then people, and we prohibit them from dumping any other time 3 days prior to that, So people understand, okay, I know the cherry picker is coming the second week of the month. I think it'll eliminate the issues that we're having with people just dumping trash because they have no other recourse. They just dump trash on the side of the road and kind of hope that the parish is going to pick it up at some time. And, because of the manpower issues, it sits out there for 30 days or more. And, storms come, it blows stuff all around. I'm speaking here. So it blows stuff around and it becomes just a mess. And I witnessed this on Highway 15 today, you know, and I know that stuff's been sitting out there for probably, you know, quite a long time. So just develop, if I can help to sit down and try to develop some type of schedule or whatever, you know, I'd be willing to do so because I think we have a beautification issue in the parish. And I understand your manpower issues, you know, it's historic, but whatever you guys can do, and I'd be willing to help out.
I agree, but new cameras at the dump, they won't even hit the dumpster. They throw it right on the ground, so, you know, it's the people problem. We have to get the communities involved in wanting to keep a community clean.
And I've spoken, and I've spoken to the sheriff. He's moved, I think, personnel over to, for kind of litter abatement to go out there and enforce it. But, you know, we really can't enforce much until we can just get a grasp on it ourselves. So I know the sheriff's office is willing to fine people, you know, to write summonses on violation of ordinances for illegal dumping and, you know, trash issues. But I think we got to get just a little bit better grasp on it ourselves.
And you're right, Mr. Black, we sat in that meeting with the sheriff and us and our sanitation, and we need to do a better job. And we need to educate people on when we picking up stuff and when we can. How about we trying to address that down in the southern end with the dumpsters out and we pulled the dumpsters back in? Okay? Because yes, we put the dumpsters out and the problem is it comes on Monday morning and we're cleaning up trash that people left, they couldn't get in the dumpster. So it's making more work on our guys to even get out into the field to do work. So we're trying to address every issue. It's been a little bit tough. COVID has hit, Christmas hit, people taking holidays, and the loss of, not just loss of people with COVID, but loss of employees that are not here anymore. So from just the northern end, we're down from 21 to 13 employees. So look, we understand your frustration. We know that the constituents are coming to you, and when is the trash can? We're trying to move as quickly as we can, okay? But I think Mr. Black is on to something. Maybe we can formulate a plan and try to pass it through all you guys and get a template where we can get a better pickup service. But it's not from us not working because we're out there working. Them guys are working very hard, and they're very good workers. It's just, it's people in the mindset, put something out, it gets picked up. So then they put something out again, thinking it's going to get picked up right away. And that's what's causing a little bit of confusion because somebody said, they tell me, well, it got picked up last week. Well, it did, but we went to another spot to pick up trash. So, again, guys, we ask to be patient. We're working as hard as we can.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. Kirk, if there's going to be a meeting to discuss this further, we would love a calendar invite on when that's going to be so we can attend and
Okay.
talk about it. I think there's, you know, just a couple things, especially in the southern end. So, you know, went to these smaller dumpsters. We had a lot of discussions as a community about, hey, it's probably not a good idea to dump on the side of the road or, you know, in front of a pit or something like that. And so folks have been going to the dumps more to seek relief. And on the weekend, the two dumpsters are filled up by Friday afternoon. And so I think that the people are starting to try to do their part. But I think just we need to keep rowing in that direction of being able to meet those needs and knowing on the front end, the council and the citizens that, hey, we're gonna go from a 20-yard capacity dumpster to an 8-yard capacity dumpster. Just knowing these kind of things on the front end definitely help us being able to deal with the problem and kind of give people the heads up.
You got it.
Thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, while we're talking trash, I'd like to see about the status on the new compactor site that was supposed to be built off of Walker Road, where we are with that, because if we encourage people to go and haul their own trash, I know a lot of them fear going into the one behind the sewer plant because when you drive back there, you don't know if you're going to come out with your tires. So, plus you have to lift up to do it. And I understand the new design was to just push it out of the truck into the bins and makes it a whole lot easier. Are we moving in that direction at all?
Yes, sir, Mr. Roussel. The issue we have right now, in talking to Tommy, is financially, is putting that money out front, cash flow, okay? If we have the money in the bank to build it, we're ready to go out, but that's our money, so that it does issue a cash flow problem if we have to come up front with that money. So it's a touchy subject. Look, I'm gonna revisit that. I'm going to make a decision and just pull the trigger, and we may have to bite the bullet, because I think if we do have a successful, solid waste, not distribution, but,
Disposal site.
waste site, disposal site, I think that gives people more opportunity to get there and bring stuff. And we wouldn't have as much stuff on the road. I agree with you, but it is a cash flow issue.
Yeah, I understand. I've been waiting on it for about 4 years now. But let me just close by saying that I'm all for the litter tickets. I think I put out the email, the post about, I'd like to see us earn a reputation like Golden Meadow has for writing tickets, that we would earn that reputation for writing litter tickets. And I do think that we should go back to the schedule that we used to have. I know that in my neighborhood, we used to pick up on a Monday or a Tuesday. People would be accustomed to that, and they'd be looking for that on a Monday or a Tuesday to pick up for trash and that. And what happens now is they just put it out anytime. And if they miss the truck, they go put it out anyway. But if they have an idea that it's coming on a Monday or a Tuesday, I think it would be a lot better off for all of us, because you still drive around the neighborhood looking for it.
Before COVID and the storms, yes, we used to hit every route, every neighborhood in 1 week. We've had 3 cherry pickers with 2 trucks apiece on the lower end and up on the northern end. We even did the West Bank, but things just got slow with the
Let me
least
ask you
amount of
this.
employees
We can't hire people is it because of COVID, or is it because of pay?
because of pay.
Hey,
Pay?
hey,
And what is the starting hourly salary?
It's like $12.57 an hour for a CDL truck driver. And they can go drive a truck right out there with $20 an hour.
So 15 is out of the question?
Sir?
15 is out of the question?
Yeah.
and
You get a better driver for what you pay for, sir. I'm sorry.
Gotta get civil service to hire them first, though.
Yeah, that's another
touche.
issue there. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point anymore, but I do agree that we need to have a schedule, and we need to write some tickets.
Thank you. Ms. Marquette? Yes, sir.
Mr. Russell, just like they were talking about recently, the CDL drivers getting paid a premium out in the private sector. Since solid waste is one of the only departments that really in the black. Y'all ever discuss, Kurt, about raising the pay? Because it's gonna be tough to get these guys with their CDL license, it's just money. They're gonna go to the highest bidder. I can't blame them.
That's every position
Yeah,
we got,
yeah.
so.
Mr. Henry, you bring up a valid point, and yes, we would like to see maybe the increase of wages, but that's not our call,
I understand that.
okay? So,
I'm last 8 right now, sir.
Ms. Marquette?
Number 5, bids and advertisements, we have one. A resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing drainage pipe for a period of 1 year for parish-wide use.
I'll offer. Ask for a second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Black?
Have we ever gotten rid of the useless, uncoated corrugated metal pipe that we spent 150 grand on 4 years ago? That's still, we talked about that, I don't know, maybe a year ago. I don't know, this is just for the acceptance of bids, but do you still have a bunch of that pipe laying around that was purchased before your time? Scott?
Blue pipe?
No, no, the corrugated, the CMP.
I'm sorry.
What are we doing with the CMP? We can't use it in this environment. We paid $150 for it. Oh, did we put that out for auction or sale, or are we using it kind of piecemeal?
Oh, we can check into it. We use it piecemeal on the neighborhoods where it's away from the salt water. You know,
Okay,
we do have some back by the drainage shop. I really don't know exactly how much, but we
Okay.
can check into it.
all right, thanks.
Any other questions, Mr. Blink? No. From the administration, audience, machines open. Passes 8-0. Ms. Marquette, next item.
Beer and liquor licenses.
Does anybody have any? Key in, Mr. Alborough?
I have one for Dr. Gui. Louis Aguilar at 8617 LA 23 in Bell Chase.
Anyone else? I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Machines open. Ms. Marquette, on the permits, can you take number 3 by itself?
Yes, sir.
E also. No, I'll wait till you get to B as in boy.
Number 1, Woodland Borrow Pits LLC, application number.
Deferred.
Number 2, Louisiana Fruit Company, application number 2021-133, dated February 3rd, 2021. Dredge a portion of Tiger Pass and Canal Number 1 to allow for safe navigation. Venice Port Complex, Venice area. Councilmember Konovich.
Can you do 7A4 with it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Trailer Massman Joint Venture, application number 2020-365, dated May 21st, 2020. Install permanent sheet pile walls and cofferdams at bent locations 12 and 13 on flood side of levees, flanking the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway for scour protection and permanent sheet pile cofferdams. Will also be installed at bent locations 11, 14, and 15 on the protected side of the levees. Bell Chase, Councilmember Black.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Mr. Roussel?
Mr. Black, this is for the toll bridge project?
Yeah, I asked Amitra what this was for. She said, not Amitra, I'm sorry, Val. It's part of the project, not part of the structure. I think it's the reinforcement of the banks on both sides of the canal for the, I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's reinforcement for erosion issues, but not a structural issue.
Any other questions? Administration, the audience, machines open. It passes 7-1. 7A3.
Harvest Midstream, application number 2021-154, dated February 9, 2021. Install 8-inch pipeline via horizontal directional drilling, Southwest Pass area. Councilmember Konovich.
Do I have a motion?
Offer it.
Offered by Mr. Blink, second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? Machines open. It passes 6 with 2 abstention.
Seven B, Cajun Oaks Park, Corey Lot Trailer Park Renewal,
Do that
Joy
by
Lane,
itself,
Bell
huh?
Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Roussel.
Yes,
Do I have, Mr. Roussel offers, there's a second?
Second.
for
Second by
discussion
Mr.
only.
Blink, for discussion only.
Mr. Burris, have we made any progress on this, or should we defer this?
No, planning and zoning and permits went out. They're currently drafting a report of what they found when they went to look at the property. I should have something for you guys next week about, what's happening on that property, and y'all can make your decision accordingly.
Yeah, I'll defer the item at this time.
Items deferred.
7C, Tyler Wilson, new vending ice machine in an A2 zoning district, 14735 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink.
We're going to defer this one too.
Can you take all in global unless there's an objection?
Yes, sir. D, PHI Trailer Park Renewal, Ernie's Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. E, LZ Properties Trailer Park Renewal, Sooner Lane, Venice, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. F, Soriano Estates Trailer Park Renewal, RP Lane, Triumph, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. G, Goodman's Trailer Park, Inc., Todd Goodman Trailer Park Renewal, Goodman's Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. H, Min Win Trailer Park, Van Tran Trailer Park Renewal, Elizabeth Lane, Empire, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink. Falcon Crest Trailer Park, number 2, Gary Falcon Trailer Park Renewal, Falcon Crest Lane, Triumph, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. J, Venice Charters Unlimited LLC, Brent Roy Trailer Park Renewal, Emmets Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. K, Delta Dragon RV Park, Angie Marjorie Trailer Park Renewal, Finnegan Lane, Venice, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. L, Live Oak Belle Chase MHP LLC Trailer Park Renewal, 11797 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Newberry. And M, Southern Mobile Home Community, Inc., Thomas Gorman Trailer Park Renewal, 300 Block East 3rd Street, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Black.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Ms. Newberry. Any questions? Machines open. And they pass 7 with 1 absent. Mr. Black stepped out for a second.
N, Big Mama's Catering, commercial in an A-2 zoning district, 29558 Highway 23, Home Place, Louisiana. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Offered by Mr. LaFrance, second. I'll second. Mr. Blink, second. Any questions? Machines open. It passes 8-0.
Number 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. We have several. These are for Councilmember Konovich. A resolution giving supplemental approval to the issuance of not to exceed $75 million aggregate principal amount of revenue refunding bonds of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, for the purpose of adding additional or alternative security to the proposed bonds and providing for other matters in connection therewith. An ordinance to amend the 2021 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Civil Service Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing and directing Parish President Kirk Lapine to execute a contract for professional services with Ladder and Bloom Holding, LLC, for real estate broker services and other related services to the Plaquemine Parish government. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Blaine Sheets, Plaquemine Parish, Louisiana, as shown in the re-subdivision of 2 undesignated lots into lots S-1 and S-02, Venice, Louisiana, plan and plat of survey by McKay and Associates, LLC, dated November 18, 2020, though having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision Ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And Mr. Chairman, I think a moment ago when I read this, it should be S-2, not S-02.
Thank you, Ms. Marquette.
For Councilmember Bartholomew. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Greenwood Plantation, Bertrandville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots H1 and H2 Greenwood Plantation, Bertrandville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated July 22, 2009, revised February 11, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution relative to the use of parish-owned and/or operated dock space to ensure the parish is being appropriately compensated and to provide for related matters. For Councilmember Black, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of the Parks of Plaquemines Parish, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of the Parks of Plaquemines, Phase 3A being a re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 3-D-2, Section B of Belle Chase Plantation into lots 78V through 96V, into lots 193 through 203, and lot 226, and lots 229 through 233. Homeowners Association Tract 9H and Streets by Bryant, Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 10, 2020. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost of the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of the Parks of Plaquemines, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the map of the Parks of Plaquemines, Phases 3D, being a re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 3-D-2, Section B of Belle Chase Plantation into lots 172A through 177A, lots 178 through 192, and lots 234 through 248, Homeowners Association Tract 11H and Streets by Bryant, Hammett and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February the 10th, 2020. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost of the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember LaFrance, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation for the Libraries Department and to amend the Library Services Fund 2021 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, Libraries General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, that is it for the introductions.
Thank you, Ms. Marcotte.
Item 9A1. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of an undesignated portion of ground located in Section 35 T20S R30E Southeastern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Boothville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots JJ1, JJ2, JJ3, JJ4, Section 35 T20S R30E Southeastern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Boothville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the re-subdivision plan and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated November 12, 2020, revised January 21, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Administration, audience? Machines are open. It passes 6 with Mr. Black and Mr. LaFrance stepped
I'll
out.
do a visual, a verbal yes.
Passes 7-0. Ms. Morcott?
Number 2, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Empire Waterfront LLC located in Duluth Subdivision, Section 9, Township 20, South Range 28 East, Southern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on a map of re-subdivision of lots 11 and 12 into lots 11A, 11B, 12A, and 12B, property of Empire Waterfront LLC by Tilden H. Dufresne Jr., PLS, of Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated October 17, 2020, revised January 5, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to offer.
Mr. Blink offers, I'll second. Is there any questions? Administration, audience? Machines open.
Mr. Arbro?
It passes 7-0.
Number 3, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Article 9, Section 13-120 entitled Mosquito Control Fees Established and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Blink,
Sure. So this solves the problem of being charged for,
want to offer first?
oh, I'm sorry, this is the fine.
Mr. Blink offers, is there a second? Second by Mr. Alborough. Mr. Blink?
Sure. So this solves the problem of people having multiple water meters on one piece of property. And so only the biggest meter would be charged. So this is, for instance, if you have an agricultural meter or like a irrigation meter, you would be charged for your larger meter. And so this would impact the mosquito control budget by about $37,000, and there's separate legislation to address that. But it creates a more fair situation. There has been a lot of outcry from folks about being charged more than they should be.
Any questions? Mr. Roussel?
So how does this affect a travel trailer park with 100 trailers in it?
I mean, you know, you
I
can read the
spoke-
legislation here. I mean,
I
it's,
spoke to Mr. Epley about that. It was a good question.
you know, our laws say that, you know, if you have, you know, a trailer park, you can't have, like, you know, you're not gonna run a trailer park off a 1.5 inch meter. You're gonna have a, you know, meter of the appropriate size and.
Yes, but each hookup gets charged a meter.
What's that?
Each hookup on that water line gets charged a meter. So are they gonna,
From what I understand, in the park, when it comes to a trailer park, they were gonna split the cost instead of them paying the full fee. He told me they were gonna split the cost between the parish and the trailer park.
So if there's a $25 fee, they're going to split it between 100 trailers?
No. I think each individual, Richie was connected. He was paying for each individual connection. You recall?
I mean, the legislation is a little complicated, and I mean, there's more to it than I could explain here, just quickly. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm kind of surprised you didn't reach out. It's been laying over for quite a while.
Is that not addressed in line 58 where it's the half the fee?
There you go.
Yeah.
Each connection would just get charged half the rate on line 58.
Correct.
So if
That's a
there's
more
100
clear-
trailers in there, they're going to be charged $350 apiece for each trailer?
Well, I don't know the meter size going in,
Say if the meter's a 2-inch meter.
then it would be $5.
Yeah,
$5
he
a
said they would charge
So it could be-
$10 per meter. Instead, they're being charged $5 because it's a multiple travel trailers in that
Right.
park.
So what happens to the 100 trailers on the other side of the meter? $5?
Based on what I see in 58, yeah. For each connection,
Because the travel trailers aren't paying for water, it's within their daily rate or monthly rate. It's,
Mr. Bartholomew?
What about the trailer parks that have 1 meter?
That's what he just asked.
No, you're talking about travel trailers. That's what it just said, travel trailers. That's what I'm asking about, permanent structures, and people live there, not going anywhere.
For all commercial establishments engaged in business, foreseeing or providing rooms or land intended and designed for dwelling, lodging, sleeping, or camping.
So, I mean, this was designed for situations like, say, the Delta Marina or the Empire Inn, where you have,
I understand that, that part of it. I don't understand what we're doing with those people that lives there for years and years and still living there.
so that,
And have one water meter, and what are they going to be assessed?
so, I mean, that would fall under line 54. So for residences, no more than one connection per residence, blah, blah, all that.
What are they going to be assessed? I don't understand.
I mean, is there anything clarifying from the administration? Rennie, you were closely involved
It's
with
per-
drafting this legislation. Can you help to explain,
You
please?
don't have to pay.
Yeah, it's per connection. So it's, if there's 6 connections on a piece of property and there's only 1 meter feeding all of them, each individual, each resident is going to pay the fee. If there's 6 trailers, all 6 are going to pay this fee because it's per connection. It's not per meter size. The fee is determined by meter size, but who's actually charged is determined by connection. I think Mr. Russo was asking about for 100 trailers. So the way this is set up is if you are leasing or renting out establishments for less than a month, you would pay half the rate. So if you had 100 trailers and you had 100 connections, you would pay, if the meter size servicing the property was the $1.59, then you would pay $4.50 times 100, because once again, it's per connection. For residents, we had the issue about, some residents have 2 meters. One's usually for an irrigation system, one's servicing the house. This would say that per resident, you would only be charged for one connection, the most expensive one.
And I agree with that part of the ordinance. If a guy has a swimming pool and he has his meter on the swimming pool, or if he has an irrigation system and he has a meter on his irrigation system, I understand that. What I'm not clear on is if the guy has 100 trailers behind a 2-inch meter and he's gonna have 100 connections on there, and you're saying it's gonna pay half of that, 350 times 100?
He's going to pay $350 times 100 because it's per connection. This was Mr. Blink's legislation. His concern was that obviously during COVID, I'm assuming there's a lot of vacancies down there. And so, his concern was that we would be charging a lot of these tenants, not tenants, we'd be charging the establishment for a lot of meters or connections that aren't in use. And so his concern was that, at least right now, that's financially debilitating to some of these establishments. So, it's his legislation. I helped him draft it to achieve what I think he's trying to achieve, and that's what it says.
And so if there's no connection on the meter, if there's 100 trailers in there and 50 of them leave and he still has 50 in there, then he'll only pay on 50?
Correct. It's per connection, meaning hookup to the
Right.
space. It's not, we're not getting into, is there a trailer there today? Is there a trailer there tomorrow? So it's per connection on the property.
So if there's 100 in there or 50 in there, he'll pay the same every month?
Correct. Yeah, the parish isn't getting into what the occupancy level is of each trailer park. We're saying you pay half for each connection, regardless of if you have 100 spaces and you only got 1 occupant, well, you only got 1 occupant, but you're going to pay for all of them.
And the impact of this is an annual only $34,000.
That's what finance is determined in Mr. Eppley.
It's, just to be clear, it's 37.
$37,000.
Well, in the 30s, yeah.
Mr. Bartholomew, you finished?
You never answered. Is the
Still
question,
haven't resolved my issue. I mean, the discrepancy is there. It's nothing blanket across the board. So if we have, just like Mr. Rousseau was talking about, we have people living in a subdivision, in the trailer park, and that's where they live at. So they all are gonna be assessed half a month compared to one who lives in a home somewhere else who pay the whole amount. That's right?
do they have,
I'm just asking.
I mean, Are there very many instances where,
I'm not asking, the answer. I'm saying if that's what it is.
I mean,
That's all I'm
if you're
asking.
asking me questions, I would prefer to respond.
Well, my point is, it's yes or no, and the scenario is something different that you're trying to get to, that's fine.
I mean, what this is trying to achieve is trying to lessen the financial burden on folks. You know, if you say, let's take any lane in the parish, say it's and I think this is what you're trying to talk about, say a family plot of land that has 4 individual residences on it that are on 1 meter, for instance. What this legislation would do is, say it's a 3/4 inch water meter, it would half what each individual resident pays from $7 to $3.50 a month. So it alleviates the financial burden a little bit. There's not very many instances where that is happening around the parish, and this is more set up to lessen the burden on, commercial establishments. For instance, ones that have individual buildings that are common in the southern part of the parish.
Trailer park residents are being assessed a fee each month. There's no disparity between the assessment. They're gonna pay that cost every month, whatever the rental is. They're gonna pay that. But we're doing something totally different. We're not gonna assess them. What the assessment is being based on the number of people that lives in it, prorated thereafter.
Well, what I'm getting out of this,
Oh, I see.
Section C only deals with time that are occupied for less than a month. It doesn't solve your problem if you got,
I'm not talking about that. I understand that part of it. I understand that.
that stays the same.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the people that's in and out. I understand that. I'm not talking about that.
But if I got a trailer park with 4 trailers in it with 1 meter, I'm paying half for each one. If I got 4 trailers with each a meter, I'm paying full.
No, that's not true. So for instance, if you have a trailer park and you've got 4 trailers and they're on a
3/4 inch, you could use any one you want, but
On
if
a
I got
2-inch
4
meter.
of them on it, they're gonna pay half of what they supposed to pay.
right now they're paying $40. If there's 4 connections on a 2-inch meter, they're paying $40 a month for mosquito control.
Okay, if I got 4 separate trailers on 4 separate meters, I'm still gonna pay $40. I'm not getting a discount.
This deals with people are on the property for less than 1 month shall pay 1/2. It doesn't say anything about if you live there 12 months out the year.
I think that has to do with the definition of like a hotel or something of that nature, or a campground, more than if it's a fishing camp or not. Correct?
No, this is just dealing with commercial. Let me read it one time. For all commercial establishments engaged in the business of furnishing or providing rooms or land intended or designed for dwelling, lodging, sleeping, or camping purposes to transient guests for any period of time for less than 1 month, shall pay 1/2 the user fee for each connection. It doesn't say anything about a trailer park that's been there and people live there 12 months out the year. This deals strictly with the travel trailer in and out, or the rooms at Venice Marina or wherever the hotel might be, like the lodge in Belchase, the Rosa Motel, the famous motel in Belchase. It might, that applies to that, because they rent the room for less than 30 days. That's what I'm getting out of this. And of course, Grand Bayou gets a pass.
Yeah, I mean, there's no road there. You can't spray, and I think it's unrealistic to think that the mosquito truck is going to be
We don't have a plane?
as much as the trucks will be.
We don't have a plane?
Yeah, we have
We
a-
do, but it doesn't go every night of the week like the mosquito trucks.
Neither does the mosquito trucks.
I'll see the mosquito truck every night.
All right, I yield. It's not clear to me, and I'm not gonna be able to say.
I really wish you would have talked to me in the months since the last meeting about this. If you had such a problem with it, we could have worked this out ahead of time and found clarity.
Richard, you don't want to go there with me.
What's your wishes?
Call a question.
Call a question. Any other comments from the audience?
Let's defer to move on. Defer.
He's deferring it. Next item, Ms. Morcott.
9B, in ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, district attorney, general, and DA domestic violence departments, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Ask for a second. Ask for a second. How many I gotta ask for? 4. Ask for a second. Dies for lack of a second.
Is there anybody here from that office to talk about it?
He called me the other day, he said it was just a finance thing to put it all under one.
Councilman Cognovich, I did speak to Mr. Ballet about this.
It's moved on, it's dead. It died for lack of a second.
Okay.
9C, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president, Kirk Lepine, to execute a contract for services with Strategic Demographics LLC for reapportionment, redistricting services, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, we do have an amended contract with this item.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Offered with the amendment in the contract. Second on it. Second by Mr. Roussel. Mr. Burris, everything was good with it?
Yeah, Mr. Garrett and I worked on it. I'm satisfied if the council's satisfied.
Okay, any other questions?
Uh,
Mr. Bartholomew? Any other questions? Administration, audience? Oh, watch yourself.
Oh, this contract for redistricting and reapportionment, that's for the 9 districts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else in that contract?
For them to look at the census and tell us where we're gonna have to draw the lines.
Is there a time limit?
Mr. Garrett, you want to answer?
Mr. Garrett?
Yes, sir. I actually work with Strategic Demographics. That's to get it done before, on the timeline to get it, so they'll be applicable for the next regular election. And y'all's next regular election is 22.
22, right?
So that's when you got to have it done by now. There is something unique this cycle because of the Supreme Court ruling. You don't have to do pre-clearance, which means you don't have that extra 60 or 90 days that you normally have to worry about. But there is a provision in the contract in case Congress changes the law on us, and you do have to do it, we can take care of that as well. I can tell you that the principal of this group and I worked together last cycle. We did 32 jurisdictions from Little Amite City to the city of New Orleans. We had 32 jurisdictions, 100% pre-clearance.
Is there a public comment period before?
Yeah, the ordinance adopting it will be by, it has to be an ordinance, so it's subject to public. And what our normal process is once we come up with a proposal, we post maps ahead of time so people can come and take a look at them and see where the projected lines will be. And our role is to basically make sure that the plan complies with the law. One man, one vote, so the population is as close as they can, and complies with the Voting Rights Act.
That wasn't hard to put out to the public, was it? That's the way it should be. Let the people know.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. State your name and address for the record, please.
Wyona Kirkland, Belle Chase, Louisiana. My question about the redistricting, is there a committee from the public that can also sit in with you all when you all do this redistricting? I know you say you're going to open it, put the maps out and everything, but I would like to be a part of that, sitting in on that committee or whatever it is when you guys do the redistricting.
We work for the parish. However, we're instructed to do it. And again, I did a number of jurisdictions last. Some
left it completely internal with the elected body. Some, like City of New Orleans, we did it. We actually had a bunch of public meetings all over, but
Okay,
and a lot of it had to do with population. The larger jurisdictions, it tends to be a much more publicly involved process. Smaller jurisdictions, it tends to be more local. And I've done school boards, cities, parishes, but it'll be up to this body right here.
Okay.
The extent to which,
so that the public can get involved with it. I would like to be a part of whatever the redistricting is going to be, or how you all going to sit down and organize or whatever.
Whenever we find out, we'll let you know.
Okay, so how will you let us know? How will the public know?
They'll be posted on the agenda.
Okay,
The items that we will be considering for adoption, the public hearing will be held like this, and if they choose to do
and
another,
then there will be another
well,
meeting.
yeah, it depends, like he said, it depends on the body and how many hearings they want to have. It could be on the agenda for 2 or 3 times and can deferred and more public input and deferred.
Because what I'm saying is, I don't, you know, what I see that's going on is, here it is, and this is it. You know,
Let me say this,
but-
that's what happens. They're going to say, here it is, and give it to us. And then we're going to say, we like it or don't like it, and we're going to have it to the public, you like it or don't like
Okay,
it.
we'll have enough time to
Yeah.
have input.
I'm sure you will,
Okay, thank you.
because we won't know what it is until he gives it to us.
Thanks. Any more comment?
Good evening, Tracy Riley, 13482 Highway 23, Bellchase. Is there a deadline for having this done? I'm getting bits and pieces that this is something that is a requirement from the federal end, that this must be done. And if so, what is that date? And when is the projected completion time for the contract to be signed? And how much is the contract?
all right, the contract amount, I can answer you. The contract amount is 16,000, which is
Okay.
actually less than what we did for most jurisdictions, because there's not the pre-clearance requirement, because submitting pre-clearance is a very large task. Now, there is a contingency to add money back into it if that would have to happen, but that's only if Congress changes the law. The requirement to redistrict is actually kind of multifaceted. There's a U.S. constitutional obligation that single-member districts be approximately equal in population, so that one man, one vote. And it's population, not registered voter. It's population per the census. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 requires that when you make changes to election law, such as districting, that you not impair minority voting strength by the way you draw the lines. And again, we had 32 plans pre-cleared by the Justice Department last cycle. You don't have to do the pre-clearance anymore, but you still have to comply with the Voting Rights Act, and I'm not going to submit a plan that I don't believe does. There's also Louisiana statutory provisions, one requiring that you use the official U.S. Census numbers, and secondly, that you have to have it done prior to December 31st in the year after the census data is provided to the president. Now, I can tell you, there's been a bit of a hiccup. Normally, that's done in December. It hasn't been done yet. We're probably not going to get it, instead of getting it this month like we would normally get it, we're probably not going to get it for a couple of months. So technically, that would push it December 31st of 2022. The problem is, y'all's election's in the fall of 2022. And if I let y'all try to have an election on 11-year-old census numbers, somebody's going to file a lawsuit and win. So we're going to have it done in time for it to be used for the 22 elections. And there's a deadline in the state. You have to have it at least you have to have a plan approved at least 90 days prior to qualifying, so that everybody knows where the districts are. And our goal is to have it done a whole lot sooner than that.
Okay, and this is my last question. Thank you very much for those very pointed answers. There were concerns about the way in which the information was collected. So is there a reporting mechanism from the public to the officiators who collected the data, that those concerns could be somewhat fettered out before the official numbers come out?
We have, no one in this room has anything to do with the official census numbers. The official
Okay.
census numbers are issued by the United States Census Bureau. They have not been delivered to the president yet, as I am aware. Once they are delivered to the president, the U.S. Census Bureau will then submit what's called the PL data, and it's actually a digital file with the census numbers in it. We input that into our mapping system. We have nothing to do with that.
Right, you receive it from them.
Yeah, it comes directly from the Census Bureau, and it'll be the exact same numbers that Plaquemine School Board uses. It'll be the exact same numbers that the state of Louisiana uses. It'll be the exact same numbers that everyone in the state. And that number comes from the census. One of the things I try to tell people is, look, we know that a census it's an attempt to count, but there's no way it's perfect. And by the time we're actually drawing districts with it, the last day of the census was actually April 1st of 2020. So we know it's delayed, but everybody has to use the same data, and courts have routinely held that makes it reliable enough to use. But like I said, the data is what the data is. We don't get to change it.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Raleigh. Any other questions? Machines are open. Passes 7-0. Ms. Walcott?
D, a resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to negotiate, sign, execute, and enforce the attached lease agreement between Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District and Plaquemines Parish Government.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions?
There are some changes to this.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
Changes are in the preamble, removing the word negotiate. On line 14, removing the word negotiate. On the lease agreement, under section 2. This isn't the one, okay. I thought it was something different, okay. I'm sorry, under section 2, we're adding the phrase, the sentence, however, leasing may terminate this lease at any time by a simple majority vote of the Plaquemines Parish Council as a sole acting governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. On page 4, we're removing lessor will pay all charges for electricity and water services used at lease premises, and adding, for the first year of the lease term, leasee shall pay monthly $2,540 for electricity and water services used at lease premises. For each year thereafter, leasee shall pay 40% of the preceding year's total expenses for electricity and water services provided to 8056 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, 70037. Leasee may pay these expenses monthly to leaseor. And those are the changes.
And I'll offer with those changes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions?
Administration's good with this? Thank you.
Audience?
Tracy Riley, 13482 Highway 23. Is this the same issue that we were talking about with the port about the leasee being responsible for the utilities and piping and things of that nature?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this truly a leasee to leaseor contract, or is it something else because this all really falls under the port? Because it is confusing, and it does sound inappropriate for the owner of the building to require that the purchaser who's using the building to provide those additional building needs, infrastructure needs. That's just my
You may address it, Ms.
Mr.
Riley.
Roussel?
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Riley, this does not address the maintenance. That was an added feature that was thrown in after the fact by the Port Administration. This deals with prorating the electricity for the building to the users
And more.
and the lease. It has nothing to do with the infrastructure, the piping, or anything like that.
Okay,
That's what
that
was
was the
thrown in
question.
after the fact, but I thought it was a great idea, and we ought to go back and charge them.
That was the question, is is the conversation about the infrastructure. And if it's not, then that resolves the issue that I had in my head, because typically a landlord does not require that a leasee provide all of that additional expense.
I could tell you they do, because I know we pay rent, then we pay electricity,
Yes,
any maintenance on the building. That,
right.
like
I'm
air
thinking
condition that goes out, we would pay for it. And
the use of it.
no, to replace the air condition.
You would require a tenant to replace an air conditioner.
Where I work
And
right
broken
now,
pipes.
that's what goes on. Where I work, that's the lease.
Okay,
Ms. Riley, I support it because I was a business owner and had the same situation. So I not only rented, I had to pay my rent fee, plus my electricity, plus all my, anything that happened to my area of the building was my responsibility. So that can happen. It just depends on who owns the building, and it depends on your lease.
right,
So
right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Machines are open. It passes 7-0.
Nine E, an ordinance to request funding of improvements needed in the Plaquemines Parish potable water system due to detrimental impacts from the planned deepening of the Mississippi River Channel to a 55-foot minimum depth by the United States Corps of Engineers in the state of Louisiana, to authorize Newell Engineering LLC to provide engineering services for the project, and to appropriate funds for implementation of engineering work pursuant thereto. And this ordinance is a substitute.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions? Administration?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I'd like my coastal zone guy to say a few words.
Yes, sir.
This study is pretty much has been done before by the Corps of Engineers. The river depths in the places in the shoaling that they're going to bring down to 50 feet or 55 feet. When you start at the mouth of the river at Southwest Pass and you work towards New Orleans, there's a drop below 50 feet that comes all the way to 190 in New Orleans. Just before our water plants, we do still have berms underneath the river on the bottom, which is called saltwater wedges, that will only work when the river is well below, below zero, and it's pretty much a green river that might happen once every 15 years, or even longer. I think since I've been around, we've had it like twice where the saltwater had made it up towards St. Bernard Parish and past Plaquemines. I don't think this study's relevant right now. I think the Corps has all the data and information that we would need on this. So that's our opinion on the study that's being brought before y'all right now. I think it's a little premature.
Mr. Blank?
Could you please forward us that study so we can
I
review
will
that?
look it from the Corps. It's all on the Corps' website. I will send it to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
So you think this effort to try to go back and recoup any of the funding from the deepening of the channel, there's no opportunity there?
What funding, what are you trying to recoup?
Well, are you familiar with the money that we received in the past for the expansion of the Belle Chase water plant and the 20-inch water line that runs from Belle Chase to Venice?
Right, yes.
You realize that result?
That was doing the saltwater, that was doing that saltwater experience.
No, that was a result of the deepening of the Mississippi River. That was a direct payment, mitigation to this government for the Corps deepening the river. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a permanent thing, and that's why they gave us the money to expand the Belle Chase water plant and to run the line from Belle Chase to Venice.
Right, so
So my question to you is that, do you think when they go to 55 feet, that there's no opportunity for the Corps to pay us any more funding for any possible impacts? This is a $30,000 review of the documents. In my conversation with Mr. Newell, he believes that he can go in and look at the documents that have already been assembled and possibly seek additional funding for impacts that could happen to our water system. Now, if you think that that's not going to happen, I understand, and I think the $30,000 is well worth the effort. But I did make it clear to Mr. Newell in this very chamber that if he comes back for another dollar, I'm not supporting it. But I do know the fact that I had to expropriate property in the Bellchase area to expand the water holding tank. And that money came directly from that project. So I do know that there was a lot of money spent on the deepening, when the deepening of the river mitigation came to us. So it wasn't just because the wedge came into the river.
Right.
So are you familiar with that?
Yes, I will get the rest of I can look up the rest of the documents and get the information and see what's the mitigation that's available through the plan. But right now, I still think this may be a little premature on moving forward on it.
Let me just say this, Mr. Helmer. I realize you have qualifications and you're pretty good at what you do, but this is an effort to put an advocate in the field to go after the Corps to seek money. The Corps is not out there throwing dollars at this project, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to see us asking them for money. But if we don't ask them, we're not going to get it. And I would hate to think that we go down the path and leave $30,000 on the side, and as a result, miss out on $1 million or $2 million.
Got you.
So, if you think that you have the expertise to go and negotiate with the Corps on that, I'd like to know.
I'm not going to say I don't, and I'm not going to say I do, but it's worth a question and a speaking to before we engage into this. If we can get it deferred for 2 weeks, I would.
Well, we did that last meeting. It's been a month. And I thought that y'all were going to get together and have that conversation, over the last month, because we didn't have a quorum for the last meeting, so we didn't have a meeting.
Right.
But this is an issue that I have raised over the last several years, is when the talk of the rivers started about deepening. And, no administration has picked this up and tried to move the ball forward until Mr. Bartholomew picked this up and tried to move the ball forward. Now, I think, again, it's worth the effort. If the administration doesn't want to do it, then I guess the board will have to decide whether they want to do it.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, just to accent what Mr. Russell was saying, that was my whole preach of what it is and what we're trying to get done. And we are in definite need of what we can get out of it. We're not talking about no $1 million out here, but it's a possibility we may get $1 million or more. So why not move forward? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Blank?
Sure, there are a couple of other things too that aren't necessarily tied to the 55-foot deepening, but do have to do with either the Corps of Engineers, I don't know if I should go so far as to say dereliction of duty, but there are developments along the lower river, Mardi Gras Pass, the Ostrika Crevasse is increasing in size tremendously, which create a whole new set of circumstances than we were facing the last time we dealt with this issue back in, I want to say it was 2011. The water was so salty. You could taste it in the shower. You go get a fountain drink, and you would ask the person at the desk, what's wrong, and they're like, well, the water's salty. So, we've had these impacts before, but there are new circumstances that maybe need to be looked at a little bit closer. And Mr. Newell has studied Mardi Gras Pass extensively, maybe more so than anybody else. And so I think he's a good fit.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, so the board's saying the study needs to be done. I understand the need, and we don't want to have that issue with the parish. We don't want to put our constituents in that situation. So can you tell me, do you know when was the last time a study has been done on something like this?
It was, I would say, prior to the last saltwater, saltwater.
So what would make that study different than this study is my question.
Right. Well, that study, it's just on the depth of the river and how the river runs,
Okay, so,
where the wedges are.
so I would think a new study would need to be done so we don't have to have that issue again. And I thought my understanding was they were deepening to 50 foot, not 55 foot? Can
50
anybody-
foot, not 55 foot.
Just need that clarification. I don't know if that needs to be
Yeah,
If I may.
I might have mistake, but they over dredge. That's
Right.
what I go to.
You just mentioned over dredge?
Yes,
Got it.
they're actually over dredge, but you're correct. The authorized depth to go to 50 foot.
Correct, correct. Well, that, we'll leave that ball with y'all, what you want to do with this study.
Finished,
I mean-
Mr. Barry? You finished?
I yield, thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
No, look, the study may yield nothing, but if we don't ask, we don't get.
Understand?
And that's my point. And, Mr. Newell, he did the water system and he did the project in the past. So he knows what we did to get this money in the past. And I thought it was a well fit to invest it to see if we can get.
Any other questions
Call for the question.
from the audience? Machine's open.
Gotta catch the ferry.
It passes 6-0. Mr. Alborough stepped out for a second. Smallcott?
F, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund.
Deferred.
G, a resolution granting conditional approval for a plan of subdivision of Mark and Michelle Talion Tract S-1-C-2, Julius G. Foster partition, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into tracts S-2-A through S-2-D, Julius G. Foster partition, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of subdivision by John E. Bonneau and Associates, Inc., a Low Company, and dated October 22nd, 2020, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Mr. Blink?
Sure, I'd like to offer as read, and I just remind y'all, this is a conditional approval upon reaching all the milestones within the permit, construction will be allowed.
Mr. Blink offers the second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any other questions? Mr. Roussel?
My questions to the administration, do we have something in place when we do conditional approval to follow through to make sure that, they comply with the permitting process for final approval? Because we're having this issue, as you know, on one of the items that I deferred today.
Yeah, all the final approvals come back to you, so they don't, I'm sorry, once they've done what the conditional approval requires them to do, engineering, planning and zoning, Infomark, all of them go out, they inspect the property, and then the final approval is submitted to you all based on the inspections that were done. And my understanding is that no occupancy or certificates of occupancy are granted or additional permits issued until that's done.
In the case of electricity and all being already provided on the site, and they don't come back to us for final approval, and they operate under conditional approval.
Well, I'm not saying that there's never, that some items have never fallen through the cracks. I'm not sure about that. But as a general matter, if something's brought to our attention and they haven't complied or they haven't gotten final approval, then, we take enforcement action or measures as appropriate.
Okay, so in this case, it says that the fire department has disapproved it on the cover sheet because of fire hydrants. So you're saying that they're going to go ahead and put the fire hydrants in, and then they'll come back and get approval before they occupy the property?
No, that's incorrect. What I'm saying is that there is now conditional approval from the fire department.
You gotta look at the next two pages.
Okay, so it's conditional approval on them putting in the fire hydrants. So my question still stands is that, so before they occupy the property, they're going to come back and get final approval once the fire hydrants are in?
The lots won't become lots of record until the final approval is done. So if someone were to come in to build a house or a structure or something like that, until the final approval is done, there's no official lot of record, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Audience? Machine's open. It passes 6-0.
H is being deferred at the request of Mr. Blink. I, in ordinance to amend the 2021 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, financial administration department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any information on this one?
It's just some housekeeping that's being done from when we had budget hearings. Mistakenly, that 368,550 was transferred into the, I think Tommy had said it was transferred into the firefighting fund. And it is EMS, we separated the two, so it's just a transfer of funds.
Thank you. Any other questions?
It's a decrease from both funds. It says a decrease from firefighting and a decrease from general fund. So I'm going to yield with that.
It's decreasing the transfer to, and it's also decreasing the transfer from.
Right.
So it's negating
What we
on
did.
both sides of the ledger.
So the fire department has a surplus now?
Right, well, right. Once the department was separate, once the ambulance department was separated, this transfer should have never went to the fire department. So all Tommy's doing is removing the transfer and putting it back in the general fund.
Any other questions? Audience? Machines are open. Passes 6-0.
J, in ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, register of voters, department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Any explanation on this one? You have explanation with this one?
What's this register of voters? Yeah, they're taking money out of their salary and wages for employee training. The register of voters office.
Thank you. Any questions? Administration, audience?
Tracy Riley, 13482 Highway 23, Bell Chase. So that we understand, when we're talking about budgeting, does this, when you're amending things, does this have anything to do with the December budget plan that was put together for the 2021 operating period? Are we changing the decisions from what was already determined?
Yes, we are making amendments to the 2021 budget, correct. And in this case, we're taking money out of their salaries and wages column and moving it to employee training in their 2021 budget.
This doesn't increase the overall budget. It's just they're moving funds within their existing budget. So it's not like it's an increased burden out of the unreserved, undesignated fund.
So it has nothing to do then with the total allocation that the departments are to receive and things of that.
Not
This
this
is just
ordinance, no.
internal,
Not this ordinance, no.
but the ones that we've just sat through tonight, has any of that been
The
changed?
one
from
before
what was-
hasn't neither.
Yeah, I mean, some do, yeah. I mean, that's just the nature of how this process works. I mean, issues come up and they got to be funded if they haven't previously been dedicated.
Okay, that's important to know.
The 30,000 for Frank Newell, right? Or was that just approval, 30,000? That's new money coming out of the unreserved, undesignated to fund that project. So that's an additional funding that was not previously accounted for.
So then,
This is simply a transfer within an existing budget, so there's no overall negative impact on the unreserved, undesignated fund.
okay. So, and these questions I'm asking is just to understand the process. I'm not giving judgment or my opinion of what should or should not happen. But as an example, those folks who lost their jobs as a part of the painstaking process that we went through this past December, could a resolution or an ordinance to amend be presented now that we're into that plan and maybe find that some budgeting is available? Could is it possible for those persons to then be reemployed? Should budget be found? I mean, is that a possibility? Could that be a scenario for
Yes, I
a
mean,
line item for an amendment?
yeah, if there
Yes,
are
we
funds that
could.
the council can find to put into salaries and benefits, et cetera, they can adopt an ordinance doing that, and we would have to follow civil service rules about the hiring process for those folks. But I don't believe there's funds in the unreserved, undesignated to do something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Burgo Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Telfer. Mr. Roussel, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but is it being transferred, the funding being transferred from personnel just to operations inside that department? I don't have the legislation, just the preamble, that's why I'm asking.
Am I on?
Yes.
It's reducing the salaries and wages in the department by $2,510 and increasing the employee training line item by $2,510. So yes, it's taken from their payroll and putting it in their training.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Machines are open. It passes 7-0.
K, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, council general, department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any explanation on this one?
This is for you, right?
Yeah.
This is it? Oh. This is to fund it's my understanding this is to fund the contract that was previously approved by the council to do redistricting, reapportionment.
All right. Any other questions? Administration, audience, machines open. Passes 7-0.
L, an ordinance authorizing the parish president to do all things necessary and proper to sell tracts E-1 located on El Dorado Street, Buras, Louisiana, 70041 to blank for the appraised value of $25,000 and charge the buyer other reasonable expenses related thereto and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, we have some fill-in-the-blanks and changes on this.
Yes, ma'am.
The fill-in-the-blanks and changes are as follows. In the preamble, inserting the address 181 El Dorado LLC, or the company name 181 El Dorado LLC. On line 21 in section 1, inserting 181 El Dorado LLC. On lines 48 through 50, inserting Plaquemines Parish government reserves any and all interest it has to all mineral rights as required by Article 4, Section 4.01, A.2 of the Charter for Local Self-Government, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana.
And I'll offer with those changes. Ask for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions from the audience? Ms.
Enlighten me.
Newberry?
enlighten me on this, please?
This was a piece of property the parish owned that was surplus and somebody wanted to buy it.
So it's part of the surplus.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port South, Louisiana. Question is a process one. Once property is identified as surplus, so an individual can come to the parish and say, would you consider this being surplus? And then that individual can offer a price. What's the
Well,
process?
He came wanting to
Was
buy
it
the
bidded,
process.
auction? What was the process?
We had it appraised. He pays the appraisal price plus the appraisal and any other fees associated with it. And we deem it surplus property and sell it.
Got it. Thank you.
I just have one stipulation you ought to take out of that. The guy buying it for $25,000, let him have all the mineral rights. Cause, hey, my grandmother bought my property way back in the 30s. They've been taking the mineral rights from people for a long time. It's time to stop this. Stop this. Stop this.
Mr. Henry,
Roussel?
we represent the people in the parish, and the charter, Mr. Henry, let me address you.
Whereas I represent the parish too, what happened?
You interrupted
What
me.
happened to those mineral rights?
You interrupted me, Mr. Henry. We are keeping the mineral rights for the people of Plaquemines Parish to benefit from that. And the charter requires that we do that, Mr. Henry, and I'll give you a copy of the charter if you pass by the office next week, okay?
Hey, I didn't say it, nigga. I said it need to change. I didn't say it was right.
We keeping it for the people, Mr. Henry, for the people.
You always say, give it to the people, for the people,
The
it's for
people
the
don't
people.
get it. That's what I just said.
The people are gonna get it. They're gonna keep
Thank
it.
you. Any other questions? Machines are open.
Whoever caught that was good stuff. Using wells right there.
It passes 7-0. Vote.
M, a resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish government acting through its president Kirk Lepine and Venice Energy Services LLC to enter into a right of entry agreement agreement relating to parish land for the purpose of depositing dredge material and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
This is Tolga digging some, Mr. Helmers, you know?
Yes, this is Targa cleaning out around their salt domes on the lower part of the wagon wheel. What they're going to do is dredge, and they're all permitted from the Corps and the state. They're going to create us about 12 acres of land on some stuff that's washed out right next to their property is our property. So they're doing this at zero cost to the parish, and it'll net us 12 to 15 acres, depending on how much dredge material comes out of the slips.
Any,
It's on parish property disposal.
the disposal is. Mr. Blink?
Sure, is that new land going to be deposited in such ways to maximize habitat for wildlife?
Yes. Yes.
There's
It
gonna
all
be some
makes,
duck ponds and things like that in
right,
there?
the duck ponds will stay that are there, and they'll be buried off with the hay bales and the fencing, and it will be built in.
Thank you.
Any other questions? In the audience? Machines are open. Passes 7-0.
N, a resolution authorizing the parish president to protect Plaquemines Parish government's interest and to pursue any and all damages and other penalties under law owed to the parish as a result of the acts and/or omissions of various pharmaceutical manufacturers/companies, wholesale pharmaceutical distributors, and any other parties deemed liable by the parish attorney including joining any pending or future litigation related to opioid production and/or distribution.
Mr. Blink?
As read.
Mr. Blink offers as second. I'll second. Any questions from the administration? Audience? Machines are open. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, are we currently attempting to sue someone, or are damages on the table for the parish to redeem? What is a quick story behind this one?
Yeah, as you may know, there's a lot of litigation going on throughout the nation regarding opioid manufacturing and distribution. And so this is for Plaquemines Parish to file litigation in some matters that are already ongoing, and in one instance of bankruptcy. So this gives us authority to go out and pursue any damages we may have suffered as a result of the negligence or intentional acts of any of the potential defendants.
Okay, and where would the funds be allocated? Would that go into the general fund, or?
I would say typically it would go into the general fund unless there was a settlement agreement or arrangement between the parties where it was agreed by both parties that the funds be used for specific purposes, like perhaps mitigating the damages that took place as a result of this. So
Rehab
it's
maybe, or-
kind of premature to say.
Okay, well, I just want to go on the record that a good way to utilize some of the funds at least is doing things like rehab for some of the patients who found themselves addicted to that type of thing, and as well look at behavioral health treatment and counseling so that it could help the specific residents affected by that in the parish. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Machines are open. Mr. Blink and Mr. LaFrance, you want a verbal?
Sorry, I thought I hit the button.
Yeah, we hit it again. We'll just do a verbal yes.
Same.
7-0, it passes. Ms. Marquette, can we go, Marquette, can we go to P before O?
Yes, sir. A resolution reinstating the Bar Pit Advisory Committee created via Resolution Number 17-58 to appoint the membership of said committee and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance?
I want to offer what I want to put in the names of the committee.
Yes, sir.
Coulter LaFrance, John Bartholomew, Mark Conovich, Benny Roussel, Will Wilcox, Donald Vallon, and our attorney, Mr. Tuzak,
Yeah, Mr. Jock Tuesday.
Jock Tuzak. And I so offer.
Mr. LaFrance offers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions? Administration? Audience? Machines open.
Mr. LaFrance?
Passes 6 with one no. Oh, Ms. Marcotte?
Yes, sir. Going back to O.
Yes, ma'am.
A resolution to establish a one-year moratorium prohibiting the receipt of any permit, application, and/or the issuance of any permit for the construction, addition, or extension of any borrow pit or any other pits, or the extraction of dirt, soil, clay, sand, gravel, or earth within the boundaries of the parish of Plaquemines, in order to allow the Plaquemines Parish government time to review, regulate, and restrict the operation and construction of said pits or extractions, and further to establish guidelines, policies, and procedures related thereto, and furthermore to ensure the safety, health, and welfare of the people and property of this parish are protected and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance?
I'm going to let the committee that we just passed for them to make a recommendation on this item, so I will defer this item.
9-0 is deferred.
Nine Q.
That's withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
9R. An ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, ferries, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew?
We have changes for this item as well.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and read them.
Yes, sir. On line 18, the changes are, we're changing the dollar amount of $100,000 to $124,780. On line 19, changing the dollar from $200,000 to $100,000. And on the chart that Finance has put in this document, we're removing the bottom line of $75,220. That's being deleted. And those are the changes, Mr. Chairman.
I offer with those changes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bartholomew offers, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure, this to the administration. Did y'all order one of the stainless, a pair of the stainless steel boxes like our neighbors use yet?
I want to let you know that we did meet with Lamar this week. That was the company that gave us a proposal or a plan to run our ferries. And our next message was to meet with each and every one of you guys now to show you the plan or the proposal. And that was in their plan, Mr. Blank. One of their top priorities was a box. And so we do understand that concept. Look, we're going to run the ferries with the money we have. That's what I can tell you. And if we can get more crews, we'll run the ferry later. But until we get more crews, we're going to run the ferry in the same schedule. So,
I'm just looking to get collections, dialed in.
and we identified that, and even if that is in the works.
Those boxes can't be more than $1,200 a piece, huh?
They are solid metal box that they showed us, and that has a compartment that comes out certain ways. They showed us, and they actually welded it to a dolly and move it from place to place.
Sure.
So once the money goes in, that's what the rider pays. There's no change given.
Sure.
So the public will have to understand if there's a 5 or a 10 or a 20, then no change will be given.
Got it. Just like picking up the claw truck passes on Monday. I'm sure they'll get it fairly quickly.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I'm not sure what the Lamar proposal looks like, but I can tell you we need, and the audit committee issued some recommendations about cash. And as I crossed over here today to come to this meeting, the cash is still gone in the pocket. I mean, it is not a good optic to see the deckhand putting the cash in his pocket, not even in a bank bag. So, I mean, it's, something's got to be done, no matter what happens to Lamar.
You are correct. What they showed us in their plan is how they work that procedure, but they have a specific deckhand that runs that. All we have is 2 deckhands on the boat. So the deckhand who's going to run it on one side is going to run on the inside, but it's going to go insert into the case or whatever you call it, into the drop box. After that, they take it and somebody counts the money in front of them who has a ticket that tells how many cars were on. So it's such an accurate count. We don't have that. We have exemptions. We don't have as much accountability. But you're right. It's not a good objective to see a guy take money and put it. So we are going to get the box. We're going to figure out a way to leave that box. At the end of the day, bring it, drop it off, figure out how to get to finance. And they won't even touch money. They tell us they don't even touch money there. It's dropped in the box. The rider drops the money in the box. So there's no transfer of the employee taking the money and putting it in the box. So Go ahead.
Just to comment on that, I ride the Chalmette Ferry occasionally, and they do take the money. The deckhand sticks it in the box in front of your face, and you see him push it in the
That's not,
box.
okay,
So I'm a witness to this, just as I'm a witness to the dollar that I gave him to cross over here this morning went in his pocket with everybody else's dollar that followed me. So I'm trying to get to the point where I'm not worried about what Lamar does, if it's accepted or rejected or whatever. I want to get us to the point where our audit committee recommendation from last year was to handle the cash. Of course, that recommendation was not to have any cash. And naturally, our auditor is, of that opinion. But I want to hear something that we're going to get a box no matter what Lamar does, or something that we can
I
be
can
able to.
promise you, Mr. Russo, we're gonna get a box.
Thank you.
I promise you that.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I apologize, but is Lamar going to take over the ferry system? I'm not understanding what's going on here. Is Lamar?
They came and gave the,
Lamar is the managing partner of the Chalmette Algiers Ferry, as they are the manager for RTA and New Orleans Ferry. So they have given kind of a
presentation.
presentation, and we've asked them to meet with you guys now.
Yeah, I know I've met with them a few months ago. So are they doing a follow-up on themselves? Is that what's going on
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
It's just a follow-up?
Because they had some questions about our operations, about the
Right.
size of our boats, and we gave that some information, so they have a plan, and I asked them to reach out to each one of you guys.
Okay, so is this going to add hours to the ferry? I mean, I'm trying to understand
Yes.
the money.
This is,
So this has nothing to do with Lamar?
no.
This is just
But
going to add,
what we have on the
just like, yeah,
table
what's on the
today,
table today?
Totally different what we,
this is
totally different.
This is trying to get
That's
more
why- okay.
personnel to operate the
different.
ferry longer hours. But again, until this passes and I get more ferry people, we're gonna run it operational as we do now.
Is this going to be for Point LaHash or Belle Chase?
It's designed for both ferries. The ordinance self-explanatory on that, because we have one schedule for Belchase and one schedule for Point LaHash Ferry. Now, what happened with this situation, the recommendation came from the administration that we need another crew to do that, to accommodate those people that catch the ferry to go to work in the morning. And that was the minimum amount of money that we would put in posture to hire another crew to support the schedule that's on the agenda today, to vote for today, to both ferries.
And Mr. Bartholomew, I definitely
But,
understand the need.
look, I don't wanna
I'm
speak.
just saying, I'm just trying to say what it is.
Mr. Bartholomew, you're correct, but I don't want to speak out of turn because Mr. Epley's not here. He knows the numbers. If this is passed, it'll probably be one ferry. Let's not say both. Let's
Did
say
he,
one ferry.
did he get
That's not
permission
what
from
was-
the Coast Guard?
That's not what was said, conflicting
Okay.
information. I'm just saying for you right now, we both had a meeting, Mr. Connors was there, myself, along with other people, and specifically stated that to accommodate the time that we was looking for, which is 6 o'clock in Point LaHash on the east bank and 7:30 on the west bank in Point LaHash. And to accommodate the 5:30 in the morning in Belchase, to 8:30 on the east bank requires one more crew, because what you would have is a crew working not throughout the whole day. It would be a break in between to accommodate the hours that the people would work. And the work that the way it was set up, it was 40 hours a week for the personnel. Nobody was making any overtime. It was 40 hours per week to have the break in between the course of the day, so that we can accommodate the people that have to go to work in the morning and those that have to return in the afternoon on both sides of the river, east and west side of the Mississippi River.
One
now
crew-
And that's
one
why
crew would work
we went that
40
much
hours.
further to find out, and we did with finance to find out what it would cost to reinstate one crew. And that's what it was. That's why, that's before us tonight.
So now that we've laid off a crew, now we have to rehire a crew.
If we're gonna accommodate the
That
people.
is correct.
Right.
One crew would work a morning shift and get off, and another crew would take over,
The evening shift.
evening shift.
Are you?
Any other questions? Administration? Did Mr. Epley ever tell us what was going on with the Coast Guard about this process?
About the process of what we're doing now,
What Mr. Bartholomew wanted to do? He was supposed to find out from the Coast Guard.
I assume Mr. Epley has talked to Mr. Bartholomew and expressed his concerns about this not working. But I'm getting a different conversation now, okay? So all I can say is what I told you, is if this passes and we get a crew, it'll be on one boat.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Well, Mr. Lapine can say what he wants to. Honest, I don't have no gripes there. He and I never had a discussion on this at all. I had discussion with Todd Epley, Mr. Epley, along with Mr. Conovich and several other people, and I had a phone conversation with him. The point is that we are going to provide service to those people who have jobs, or we not. I'm not, we're running 2 ferries now. So we're going, if we don't put this in place, that means we're going to run 1 ferry, according to Mr. Lapine's statement just now. And that doesn't make any kind of sense to me, because this is what we budget, the money we budgeted was for the operation of the 2 ferries. And now to accommodate the same 2 ferries, to accommodate the people that's working only. And you have a split shift. You only work part of the morning and part of the afternoon to accommodate the people. That's all this is saying. It's up to us to decide what you want to do. That's all. Nothing else I can say.
Would you like to defer it till Mr. Epley's here, or do you want to vote on it?
I'm ready to go to work. If you have a problem.
All right, any questions from the audience?
I don't know what's going on.
Yes, Wyona Kirkland, Belle Chase, Louisiana. I just felt some kind of way when Mr. Roussel said that the young men, the workers put the money in their pocket. I see that too. But I also see those same young men and ladies going around counting those cars and going upstairs. So I'm sure they're putting that money where it's supposed to be. I myself had already, may have given them $10. He said, I'm gonna come back with your change. I have to go up to the captain. So I just felt some kind of way when you made that comment. And if we put the budget in there for 2 ferries, we need to be running 2 ferries. Thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, let me make it clear. My comment was prefaced by the fact that I said the optics are not good. The optics of an employee sticking $1 in their pocket is not good. So it's not, you might have taken it that way, but it wasn't intended, and I want to clear.
I feel like that little bit money
Can you come?
stop the operation of a ferry if something is going on. But I agree, we need the box. And when you go to Shellman.
Can you come up to the mic?
Go to Shellman, you do hand the money to the people. You do not put it in the box. It still go in their hand and they stick it in the box. But I just felt some kind of way about that. You know,
Look, I can
I felt
understand.
some kind of way, and I know a couple of the people who work there. I know their character.
I know, but you're making this into a
You
character.
know, I'm just saying.
I know, but I
felt some kind of way, and if they are viewed, because they are the employees on the ferry, they are watching these meetings and keeping up with it, and I'm sure they're sitting at home and they feel some kind of way.
Well,
But that's a good policy. We do need a lockbox. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
okay,
You know?
but I don't want this to be disparaged on the employee as that I am saying something negative about the employee. I am talking about the process of how this is going on. And I made it very clear that the optics, and I don't want it to deteriorate to a personal situation of the employee. It's not the employees, obligation to put the box in.
They're gonna feel, that's how some people's gonna take it
I know,
regardless.
and that's why I'm sitting here debating with you, because I don't want it to be taken that way.
Right.
It's
But I'm
not
just
the
saying.
employee's fault that he has to take the money and stick it in his pocket.
And I'm just coming back to say that I have seen those same employees do 1 through 3, count all of those.
Well, I could
cars.
tell you the reason they count the cars and give it to the captain, because the Coast Guard makes you put it into the log. And if they had a wreck, and they'd know we had 5 cars on at the time, but,
Right.
thank you, ma'am.
Virgo Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. Question, the legislation, Mr. Bartholomew, this is to put funding in to hire 2 crews?
1 crew.
No, to hire one crew that's needed to accommodate what we was trying, the people wanted to, a time frame for people to get to work and be able to get back to work. Now, it's not all day ferry situation. You have split shifts in the day, and with that other crew, that means you could do it without having people do, work over 12 hours and not having 2 days off a week. But when you put this split shift in, we worked it out where it's 40 hours a week, and everybody have 2 days off.
The reason I came up, I was hearing something about 2 crews, and we definitely just going to go with 1 crew, and I was just wondering what the funding was for. So the funding is just for 1 crew,
One crew.
and Mr. Lapine is saying that he's going to go with the 1 crew.
I think we
The
have
funding
3
is for.
crews right now. We have 3 crews working with the ferry department, 3.
Okay,
And you needed 1 more to give us the time that is needed.
I got you. The bottom line, he's gonna follow the ordinance. If you put the money, he's gonna hire the people. Is that right? Okay.
Tracy Riley, 13482 Highway 23. So I've sat and observed the council approve no fewer than 6 budget amendments off of the plan that we spent 2-3 days, fourth quarter of 2020, agreeing to. And a lot of the testimonies during that time were very, heartfelt, because many people lost their jobs as a result of that plan. And the word plan sort of speaks to the whole reason why we have to go through this process, so that we have thought through and considered and have decided the best way to move forward with the limited resources that we have to manage our government and the services this government is supposed to provide, or says it will provide. And Ms. Newberry, Councilwoman Newberry, your observation just kind of sums it all up for me, that we had to let go of a crew of workers only to find ourselves just a few months into our budget year needing a new crew to provide the services, at least for this very situation. Now, I am curious if we are tracking, as we have to make the changes to amend these budgets like we're doing tonight, are we comparing those changes to the original plan, so that we know where we are in any given month or week of the year compared to what our budget situation looks like? And if we're not, then we really are chasing our tails with this thing. We're not solving anything if we're not attempting to stick to that plan, or if we make a plan, our next, meeting, we have to make changes. It begs the question, why do we invest that much time into putting a plan together if we're not going to stick to it? Those are the things that are coming to my mind as we are sitting here rehashing these issues over and over again. And,
Thank you,
at
Ms.
the end
Robert.
of the
Your
loop,
time's up.
oh, my time is,
Yes,
I didn't
ma'am.
know we were keeping time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I will sit and just leave this with you. Where are we going to be December 2021?
Same place we was in November. Mr. Black?
Yeah, Ms. Riley, I agree with you. And the answer to your question is no. We do this every year. Exactly what you said. And I think that's one of the issues and one of the reasons why every millage that we put on the ballot failed, is because where's the public trust? Because what I said when I was talking about the millages before is that 5 council members can basically, if the villages were not written specifically for a specific service, 5 council members can come in here and pretty much drain the entire funding for that particular millage. And amending the budget just as we go and not coming up with a plan at the end of the day to prevent us from getting where we're going to eventually be, like the chairman said in November, we're not gaining that trust, and I don't think we'll ever be able to get anything passed if we continue to do that. So I just wanted to answer your question, because the answer to the question is no.
Mr. Blink?
I'll yield to Reverend Edwards here.
Reverend Edwards?
Well, I was just blown by Mr. Black's statement about 5-4. I don't know if that statement was made to talk about redistricting, but 5-4 is always used for everything. So I'm still trying to understand the context
talking about?
of how you're using the 5-4. I mean, I'm glad to see him agreeing with somebody from the public, but the public trust has much more to do than 5 votes. But it's a lot of integrity. I don't want to get in it. I want to get to ferry because I'm really confused about what we're talking about the ferry, because are we saying that the resolution that's forth now is to make sure that 2 ferries operating? Because I heard 2 ferries, then I heard 1 ferry, then I heard something about Lamar, and I don't know what this stuff about Lamar is. If that means you're gonna get somebody to come manage the ferry, that means they have to be paid, where the money gonna come from there? So I'm really confused about just what we're here talking about. What is the resolution on the floor?
Lamar's just a different subject. They,
Okay, but it came up, so that's what I'm saying.
yes, sir. But this is for us to put money into the fund to hire a whole crew for the ferry system.
But I'm hearing Mr. Fleen's, and if I'm understanding it, that they getting ready to go with 1 ferry or just 1 crew? I'm trying to, are we still gonna have 2 ferries operating, and what time schedule they gonna be operating?
Reverend Edwards, let me answer you. We're going to operate 2 ferries, as long as I have enough money to operate 2 ferries. I want that to be clear, that we're going to, what we're saying is that 1 crew that we hire would work on 1 boat. That's what I'm saying. Work, not 1 boat we're running, it would work, not 1 ferry we're running, but work on 1 boat. But we're going to operate 2 boats as long as I have the funding in place.
And Mr. Bartholomew, I'm trying to understand, because I thought you had came up with a proposal whereby we can run both ferries and not have to worry about whether there's money. Is that still on the table?
The money have to be appropriated for the 4th crew to accommodate that objective. And once that is put in place, we have enough personnel to run the 2 ferries at the time that's being presented today, to operate the schedules, and which will, again, be a split shift on both ferries. During the middle of the day, you would have no ferry operation going on at all. To accommodate, the reason for that, to accommodate the people in the morning and the people in the afternoons. And the issue is that you'll have the boat ferries, Twilight Ferry and the Belle Chase Ferry running.
So what's on, where we at right now today? What are we voting on?
Voting on appropriation of hiring this other crew, the other 4th crew that's needed to put this in our place.
Guarantee that 2 ferries be
Yes.
running all the time.
The money we have 2 ferries running.
Yeah, and last, I'll go back to Mr. Black. It had to be a 5-4 vote when they started charging us to pay money on the ferry.
Mr. Blink?
we've went around the sun here on the ferry issue. Yeah. I'll yield.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just want to respond because I'm not sure what the personal issue is with me, but I never once mentioned about a redistrict. I never once said 5-4. I said if we passed a millage and we didn't specify where the money was going to go to, that all it would take would be for 5 council members to vote to move money. Nothing to do with redistricting. There's no other motives or anything like that. So I just want to clear that. I'm not sure if I'm probably taking bait somewhere here, I guess, but I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to make it clear that I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yes, sir.
Drexel Northeast, 17977 Highway 15, Point LaHash. Whether or not we get this crew, the most important thing, the earlier we can start this ferry, the better. Because who goes to work at 8 o'clock? This is not helping anyone. The ferry needs to start running as early as possible, just like it did before. I don't know why it was changed to 8 o'clock, why people had to be laid off. And now you need to hire more people back to put the ferry back on the right schedule. And it still is not the right schedule. But the most important thing is the ferry needs to run as early as possible on both ends to get people back and forth to work. Too many people have lost their jobs already behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blink?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any other questions? Mr. Roussel?
So we're voting on this money to create a crew, but we still don't really know how we're going to operate? I mean, there seems to be some confusion here. Can we,
There is a process of telling how the shifts are going to work. We did that.
I know, but it doesn't seem there's agreement between,
Oh, I don't know,
between,
well,
I don't want to put up any money if I'm not sure where it's gone.
well,
Because we
that's
did
it
that-
is. If we don't have the 2 ferries, I don't think that money need to be given.
Well, the point I
And the
make is
schedule that we have on the ballot to vote on, if that's not approved, then it's not even committing the objective that we're trying to accomplish today.
Right, that's why I'm hesitant about voting for anything.
Mr. Blink?
Which 4 members of this body want to sit with the administration and work this issue out? Just right now, who wants to volunteer their time to get this issue handled as much as possible? I'm talking about everything from the schedule to alternative sources of income, like having outdoor advertising on the ferries, like I suggested at the summer before last. Who wants to get the grant department really dialed in on making sure we're getting as much as we can? Who wants to sit here and put the time in?
I
Because
will.
I feel like I've done that already, and I didn't get very far. And if anybody wants to join me, I would be happy to sit literally for days on end and to knock it out to where we could have a system that is useful for the people here and is at little cost as possible to the residents of Plaquemines Parish.
I went to every meeting Mr. Bartholomew had with it, so.
We had several meetings already concerning the situation. Plus, it's almost a month that it's been on the agenda. So I don't know what we're talking about here. Either we vote yes or we kill it. Support the people, give them their workforce back, or deny it. I call for the question.
Questions called. Fails 4-3
Council
with one
decided
abstention.
not to approve it, so it's done. Now, let's move on.
Ms. Marcotte?
S, a resolution relative to the formulation and proposal of the 2022 operating budget and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew? Offers, is there a second?
Which one, we on R?
Or
We're on S.
S?
RS is,
Of the ferry department, road royalty funds?
yeah, okay. Yeah, I offer that. That's for next fiscal year.
Mr. Bartholomew offers, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. LaFrance seconds.
purpose of this ordinance is to take the funding from rural royalty fund to support the revenues for the operation of the ferries for next fiscal year. That's up to the administration to put in his budget if he makes that recommendation or not. That's just all it says.
Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machine's open. Passes 5-3.
T, a resolution requesting a local bill be filed on behalf of Plaquemines Parish Council in the 2021 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature relative to the Ward 4 Justice of the Peace Court in Plaquemines Parish and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew?
I offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. There's a second. I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, there is, but no one lives in that area.
We have changes.
Okay, I'm
Sorry. On line 21, Ward X should, or Ward blank, it's a fill in the blank, should be Ward 3. And then on line 47, after we said that we're going to forward this to Representative Matt Cormier, we're adding and Representative Ray Garofalo.
I offer with those changes.
And I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, with that in detail, because we don't have any residents in that area at all, and that needs to be removed off of our governmental institution list of having precincts in that area. That's the only reason. There's nothing going on in that area, and it's just clear, that'll clear it up.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, is this a good opportunity to maybe clean up the districts there and to make them, if we're going to do, I guess we hired Danny, have that firm come in, would it be beneficial for us to have, if we're going to have 9 council members, also have 9 JOPs and 9?
If I could, y'all have the authority to draw your districts. Only the legislature can draw districts for Justice of the Peace Courts or.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So while we're doing this, if we're going to get rid of one and they're going through the whole legislative process to get rid of Ward 4, could the effort be done to basically have them mirror through this bill what the council decides to do for districts? Basically, we would submit to the legislature, the council, the 9 council districts, and then their legislation would basically, then we get rid of Ward 4, but you would have, you know.
I mean, you could urge that your legislative delegation introduce a local bill to redraw all of the JP districts. Now, I can't tell you, you just had JP elections. So those new ones would not go in, you couldn't kick anybody out, so those new ones would start in the next cycle.
Yeah,
The
that's fine.
reason it was done, this one is because literally nobody qualified, and when they said, well, let's see, there's literally no qualified voter, no registered voter in the entire ward. That's why.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
That's Pilot Town?
I'm gonna support that. Huh?
That's Pilot Town, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna support this. I just thought it was maybe an opportunity
I
to
think,
clean up the
and
mission
I
that we
think
had.
maybe what the more appropriate way to do it might be after y'all adopt your council redistricting, then request your legislative delegation to redraw all of the wards to coincide for the next available ward election. And you've got a couple of years to do that because they just had the election.
Any other questions, audience?
Burgo Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. You have wards and districts, and when it comes to the council, everything is presented as wards, and so you have a misrepresentation because when you go to vote in one area that they're calling Ward 6 is really Ward 9. You know, right now Ward 7, which is District 7, we call it District 7, but it's listed as ward. I remember in Port Sulphur, you'd have a sign saying Ward 6, and yet really it was Ward 9, District 6. So if you're going to clean this up, it should be listed as districts, not wards. There's a distinct difference between wards and districts. You know that, and yet we still allow this to go on. We have 9 districts and 10 wards. You need to clean this up. It should be listed as districts because there is a difference. Go ahead, Mr. Black.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's my understanding as well. That's why I was saying, would it be better just take an opportunity now to do it all at one time, as opposed to removing Ward 4 and then having to go back to the state legislature to change the wards and districts, or just do it all on one bill? You know what I mean?
I'm following you, but the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is because they don't follow the same boundary lines.
I get that, yeah.
I believe on the East Bank, Mr. Bartholomew or Mr. Reverend Edwards can correct me, but I think you have about 3 wards on the East Bank for the one you're trying to get rid of because no one is there. So they're not the same. I'm saying don't call district wards when you know that they're not the same. That needs to be cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Mr. Black, you said that you're not trying to talk about the redistricting, but it seemed like you just brought it up again when opportunity came. With these are 2 different things. As a constable, we come under the Attorney General for the state of Louisiana. And this ward and justice of peace thing is totally different in the state of Louisiana. And so with you, if you're thinking that you can go to the state legislature and talk about Plaquemine Parish, justice of peace as it relates to Councilman District, you're going to be against 63 other parishes who got wards for justice of peace and constable that have nothing to do with legislative stuff. I don't know if y'all ready to even go down that road, because we meet yearly, and I can tell you that's different. We're talking about apples and oranges. But I know you're concerned about redistricting.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Any other questions on this? Call a question, machines open. Mr. LaFrance? Passes 8-0.
Withdraw you. There's no sense of dealing with that since council members decided not to
Withdraw
appropriate
you.
the money to accommodate the poor people of Plaquemine Parish to fairly go to work. Majority didn't vote to support it.
I'll defer.
Number 10,
I'll defer.
number
B.
10. Wait,
Oh, yeah.
number 10, approval of the minutes from the January 28, 2021 meeting.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions, audience? Machines open.
Have fun.
Passes 8-0. I'll defer B.
Defer C.
Defer C. G's deferred. Mr. Bartholomew, D.
Mr. President, I requested those items last meeting, updates on it.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes.
Mr. Epley does have I don't have it on me for the report for the ramps but I get the levy. John, did y'all have a report on that? Or did he have, did he have the whole report?
H. Yeah.
May have gotten the whole report from Ken. He did have the report. I apologize, he's not here. Well, I'll either get it in the email or get it to you next meeting.
No, I wanted for the people to hear it. That's why we put it up for 3 meetings, Mr. Lapine. And I think if Mr. Epley wasn't going to be here, he should have gave it to one of his assistants, or one of the directors to present that information today. Because that's the reason why we presented to you in that fashion at the meeting with time. You had over a month.
In all due respect, I appreciate that, but Mr. Epley went down to get tested today at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I mean,
Still.
I take that as a, you know, as against us that, we understand it's been on the agenda. Okay, there was unforeseen circumstances. I apologize.
It's not about a bond, it's just about taking care of business. What's the next item? You got any information for me? At all?
He had all the information
Oh,
written.
you don't have any today?
Any-
All right, everything is withdrawn because no lack of information from the council and the president. I mean, the chairman and the president and his staff.
It wasn't, he just texted me, it was in the director's update.
All right.
Ms. Marcotte, can we go back to the permits, number
That's why
4?
we are where we are.
Have a reconsideration on that one?
No consistency. Well, that's me.
The Trowler Mason joint venture?
That was passed, that was adopted. Want to reconsider it?
Mr. Blink wants to reconsider?
7A4. Trailer Massman Joint Venture Application Number 2020-365 dated May 21st, 2020. Install permanent sheet pile walls and cofferdams at bent locations 12 and 13 on flood side of levees, flanking the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway for scour protection and permanent sheet pile cofferdams. Will also be installed at bent locations 11, 14, and 15 on the protected side of the levees, Bell Chase.
Mr. Black? Offers, is there a second?
An offer.
Well, it's your, oh, Mr. Blink offers for the reconsideration. Is there a second? I'll second. Machines are open on reconsideration?
Just for the vote of reconsideration?
Yes. Mr. Black, Mr. Bartholomew, Ms. Newberry? Everyone else is out. Does it have to be unanimous?
No, you just gotta have 5. Bill.
Oh, well.
No, it failed. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
By Mr. LaFrance, is there a second? I'll second. Machines open on adjournment. And we adjourn at 6:33.